Has this ever happened to you where you open up your violin case and oh my goodness, one of the strings has completely loosened and it's all wobbly? That is probably a slipped, or sometimes people call it popped peg, and there's a simple way of fixing this. This problem generally happens in cold or dry weather, just the way the wood interacts with it. And oftentimes students will go, okay, it doesn't seem to be broken, I'll just try to tune it a lot with my peg. And so they go to turn their peg, and then this happens. It just keeps falling down again, and it just won't stay. And the reason why it won't stay is because your pegs use a very ancient technology. The way the pegs are designed haven't really changed much in hundreds of years, and your pegs are just basically a wedge shape. So to make it stick, you have to kind of push in as you turn the peg. Just want to mention some tips for getting that peg pushed in. When it slips or pops like that, it helps just to take your violin down, put the end button right on your knee like this, and use kind of both hands to kind of push against each other, because sometimes with some of these pegs that really slip, you kind of have to push in as you turn, like from the get-go, and just like really push in, kind of, both hands, so you get that peg like really wedged in there. And second tip, just like when you're normally tuning with the pegs, make sure you have a tuner and make sure you're turning it up tiny motions at a time, because you don't want to go way above the pitch and really break the string. You want to just still use careful peg tuning. So I'm gonna play my D here as a reference pitch, and then just use tiny motions, just very tiny. And notice how I'm plucking as I'm turning, so I know what it sounds like every second of me turning it, so I know I don't go way above the pitch and I won't break it. So carefully tiny turns and pushing in. Continuing to push in, and you try to get it really close, and then you should be able to fine tune it the rest of the way with your fine tuner. Okay, another thing I want to mention with these pop pegs is sometimes people get them really bad, where it is practically coming off the whole violin. And first step is just make sure your string really isn't broken anywhere, so make sure it's not broken down here by the ball, that is still intact. And I'm looking at mine, yep, nothing is broken there. And then next step is I make sure nothing has broken in here or along the string anywhere. And I'm going to show you how to thread your string back into the peg, because sometimes that's how bad it is when it gets really bad. So the key is, it's a little tricky when it's all curvy and stuff like that on an old string, but you're just going to take that string and you're going to find, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to thread it, of course, when it's in the peg box, but you see how there's a little hole right there? That is the hole. You're going to stick the tip of the string through. Okay, so the hole I just showed you, hopefully you see it right here in the peg box. And like I said, it's a little tricky with the curvy string. So you're just going to take that straight piece and push it through the hole. And I like to kind of just push it out the end, other end, just a teeny tiny bit. Hopefully you can see that, not excessively, just a tiny bit. And then I'm just going to keep turning this in a neat line. And I just keep turning. And I like to kind of get it to a place where it's still loose, but maybe just barely taut, because at that point I like to do two things. I like to make sure that it's lined up in the original groove at the nut here. And I also like to make sure the string is lined up in the original groove here at the bridge, because what you don't want to do is make new grooves. So after you have that, you're just going to continue tuning and pushing in like I showed you before with the tuner. and then just go from there. Oh, P.S. One other thing I forgot to mention. Oftentimes when you have to make severe adjustments like that to one of the pegs, it can often throw out some of the other pegs or strings a bit. So if you already tuned those strings, you might want to go ahead and just retune them just to make sure they stayed in tune. And then after that, maybe retune the peg that slipped again, that string, and then maybe just retune it again for a third time just to make sure. And then hopefully after that, you won't have to tune it again until maybe at least until like 15 minutes in, just to really make sure. And then hopefully by then it will stay in tune. Oh, and also one last thing I forgot to mention past that is if absolutely none of this helps, and no matter what you do, that peg just keeps slipping, even with like lots of force pushing in, then please take it in to a instrument repair shop or a violin luthier, just because sometimes the pegs might not be fitted properly, so you might have to make some adjustments there. Another thing is it just might be like a really slippery peg, and sometimes I can put like something on it to help it grip better, but they, a person that fixes violins would absolutely know more about fixing that than me. But that is just like the final step. If like just no matter how hard you push in, it just keeps slipping, then definitely get that checked out. So, but 98% of the time, it's just you need to push in when you're tuning. That's the most common issue. So that will fix most cases. But for that one tiny percentage, you might just want to go get your violin checked out. So anywho, hope that helps. Happy practicing. Bye-bye.